From the moment tanks first rolled onto battlefields in World War I, they were built to be the ultimate war machines. Armored fortresses that could shrug off small arms fire and crush anything in their path. For decades, the rule of war was simple. If you didn't have artillery, explosives, or another tank, you had no hope of stopping one. But tucked away in the modern era is one of the rarest and most terrifying weapons ever created. The only machine gun on Earth that can literally turn tanks into scrap. It's not some Hollywood invention, nor a myth passed down in barracks. It's real, it exists, and it changed the balance of power on the battlefield. The weapon in question is the Russian-designed GAU-8 Avenger, a monstrous 7-barrel rotary cannon that looks less like a gun and more like a factory machine ripped out of an industrial plant. Mounted inside the A-10 Thunderbolt II, better known as the Warthog, this machine gun has achieved legendary status for its ability to shred through tanks, armored vehicles, and even fortified positions as if they were made of paper. To call it a machine gun is almost misleading. It's more like a tank slayer disguised as an aircraft weapon. Its sheer destructive capacity is unmatched, and its story explains why it remains one of the most feared tools of modern combat. The Avenger fires 30mm depleted uranium shells at a rate of up to 3,900 rounds per minute. Each round weighs nearly a pound, and when it leaves the barrel, it's traveling at about 3,200 feet per second, fast enough to penetrate multiple inches of hardened steel armor. Most machine guns fire lightweight bullets meant to pierce flesh or light cover. This beast spits out shells that weigh more than an entire handgun. A short 1-second burst is enough to unleash 50 rounds, which is basically the equivalent of dropping a cluster of small artillery shells on a single point. When those shells hit a tank, they don't just dent or damage, they rip through the armor, ignite the fuel, and turn the entire vehicle into a flaming wreck. The A-10 itself was designed around this gun. Engineers didn't simply mount it onto an aircraft, they built the plane to be a flying platform for the Avenger. The cannon is so large that it runs almost the entire length of the fuselage, and its recoil is so immense that firing it actually slows the plane down midair. Pilots joke that if you were to build an aircraft around a weapon, this is what you'd get. And that's exactly what the US Air Force did in the 1970s, when they needed something to counter the enormous waves of Soviet tanks expected in a European war. The Cold War doctrine imagined thousands of armored divisions pouring through Germany, and NATO needed a weapon that could wipe out tanks by the dozen. The A-10 and its gun were the answer. The sound of this weapon alone has become iconic. When the Avenger fires, it doesn't produce the sharp rattle of a normal machine gun. Instead, it unleashes a guttural roar, a BRRRRT, so loud and distinct that ground troops instantly recognize it. For soldiers pinned down by enemy armor, that sound is salvation. For tank crews on the receiving end, it's the sound of death. Videos from combat zones in Iraq, Afghanistan, and beyond have captured this terrifying noise, often followed by the sight of enemy vehicles disintegrating into twisted heaps of metal. Entire convoys have been stopped in their tracks by a single strafing run. Unlike missiles or bombs, which can be expensive and limited in number, the Avenger allows for sustained tank-busting power. Its ammunition drum carries 1,174 rounds, giving pilots enough firepower to annihilate columns of vehicles in one sortie. The depleted uranium rounds are particularly deadly because they are self-sharpening. Instead of flattening out on impact, they maintain a piercing edge that slices through armor like a hot knife through butter. Combine that with the precision of a strafing run, and you get a weapon that doesn't just disable tanks, it obliterates them. Its combat record speaks for itself. During the Gulf War in 1991, A-10s equipped with the Avenger were responsible for destroying more than 900 Iraqi tanks, 2,000 other vehicles, and 1,200 artillery pieces. Tank crews often abandoned their vehicles as soon as they heard the telltale roar of the gun overhead, knowing that survival was impossible. In later conflicts, from Kosovo to Afghanistan, the Avenger continued to prove its dominance, earning the A-10 a reputation as the most effective close air support aircraft in history. Ground troops came to rely on it so much that the aircraft gained a cult-like following among soldiers, who nicknamed it the Angel of Death and the Flying Gatling. What makes this weapon so unique is that no other machine gun in existence can do what it does. Anti-tank missiles can kill tanks, sure, but they are not machine guns. They are single-shot weapons. Artillery can wipe out armor from long range, but it requires setup and support. The Avenger is the only gun that can unleash a continuous storm of tank-killing firepower while flying low and slow over a battlefield. It blurs the line between machine gun and cannon, and it remains unmatched even decades after its creation. Other nations have tried to mimic the concept, but none have replicated the sheer power and effectiveness of the Avenger system. Its effectiveness also raises uncomfortable questions about modern warfare. In an era where drones, precision missiles, and stealth fighters dominate headlines, clunky jet built in the 1970s and its massive machine gun continue to be indispensable. The A-10 has survived multiple attempts by the U.S. Air Force to retire it, largely because ground troops refuse to let it go. Soldiers know that no other aircraft provides the same level of devastating, precise, and reliable close air support. As long as tanks exist on the battlefield, the Avenger and its Warthog will remain the ultimate nightmare. There's also a psychological factor. Warfare isn't just about who has the most firepower, it's about fear. The sight of an A-10 swooping low over the battlefield, its nose pointed at enemy armor, is enough to break morale. Tank crews know that armor means nothing against those 30mm shells, and even before the first rounds land, many abandon their vehicles and flee. The destruction is not just physical, but mental. The Avenger machine gun doesn't just win battles, it prevents them by making enemy forces too terrified to fight. At its core, the GAU-8 Avenger represents the pinnacle of what a machine gun can be. It takes the basic principle of rapid fire and scales it up to tank-busting proportions. It's the only weapon of its kind. An industrial-sized gun that can turn the strongest vehicles ever built into molten wrecks. Tanks were once thought to be invincible, the kings of the battlefield. But this machine gun flipped the script. It proved that even the most armored behemoths can be reduced to junk when faced with the right weapon in the right hands. In a world where technology constantly evolves, the fact that this decades-old machine gun is still the most effective tank killer speaks volumes. It's not just a weapon, it's a legend. And as long as it keeps flying, the Avenger will remain the only machine gun on Earth that can turn tanks into scrap metal.